She made millions of Americans laugh every single week for 11 straight years. She could make you cry from laughter one moment and move you to genuine tears the next. But behind the sketches, the wigs, the outrageous costumes, and that unmistakable Tarzan yell was a woman who had survived a childhood that would have broken most people. This is the story of Carol Burnett, the woman who turned pain into comedy, and comedy into a legacy that television has never quite managed to replicate. To understand Carol Burnett, you have to understand where she came from. She was born in San Antonio, Texas, and raised largely in a one-room apartment in Hollywood. Not the glamorous Hollywood of movie premieres and swimming pools, but a cramped, struggling Hollywood of boarding houses and shared bathrooms. Her parents, Jody and Ina, were both alcoholics. They separated when Carol was very young, and she grew up primarily with her maternal grandmother, Mabel White Jones, a woman everyone called Nanny. Nanny was poor, deeply religious, eccentric, and fiercely devoted to Carol. The two of them shared that single room, surviving on government assistance, eating meals that barely qualified as meals. There was no stability, no financial security, and very little of what most children would consider a normal family life. Carol has spoken openly about this period throughout her life, never dramatizing it for effect, but never softening it either. Her mother and father drifted in and out of her life, both consumed by addiction. There were moments of warmth between them, but also long stretches of absence, of disappointment, of watching adults she loved fail to function. What saved Carol, by her own account, were two things: movies and her grandmother. Every Saturday, Nanny would scrape together the dimes needed to send young Carol to the movies. And in that dark theater, watching the great comedians and dramatic stars of Hollywood's golden era, something ignited inside her. She didn't just want to watch those people, she wanted to be one of them. She graduated from Hollywood High School and enrolled at UCLA, initially planning to study journalism. But a playwriting class changed everything. She discovered she had a natural gift for performance, for physical comedy, for timing, for inhabiting characters. She threw herself into theater arts completely. When she needed money to move to New York and pursue her dream, a stranger, someone she had never met before, lent her $1,000, asking only that she pay it forward someday by helping others when she was able. Carol kept that promise for the rest of her life. New York in the mid-1950s was not an easy place to break into show business, but Carol Burnett was not easily discouraged. She worked in the check room at a TV studio, she performed in small clubs, she hustled, and gradually she started getting noticed. Her big break came when she performed a comedic song called "I Made a Fool of Myself Over John Foster Dulles" at a party. The song was absurd, perfectly timed, and the room loved it. It led to television appearances, which led to more television appearances, and by the late 1950s, Carol Burnett was becoming a recognizable face on American screens. She became a regular on The Gary Moore Show, a CBS variety program, and it was there that she truly developed her skills as a sketch comedian. She was fearless, she was physical, she was willing to look ridiculous, to contort her face, to throw herself into a pratfall with complete commitment. Audiences adored her. She received a Tony Award for her work in the Broadway musical Once Upon a Mattress, where she played the lead role with an energy and comedic precision that left critics stunned. She was building something real, a career based not on conventional beauty or romantic leading roles, but on talent, originality, and an ability to connect with people that felt almost impossible to manufacture. Then came the show that would define an era. The Carol Burnett Show premiered on CBS in September of 1967. The network was skeptical. Variety shows were traditionally hosted by men. The conventional wisdom, if it can be called wisdom, was that a woman could not carry that format week after week. Carol had fought for the opportunity, and CBS eventually relented, giving her a 10-episode commitment that would grow into one of the longest-running and most celebrated variety programs in the history of American television. The show ran for 11 seasons, produced 278 episodes, and won 25 Emmy Awards. What made the show extraordinary was not any single element, but the combination of everything working together. Carol assembled a cast that became, over time, one of the great comedy ensembles in television history. Harvey Korman was her perfect foil, dignified, precise, and perpetually on the verge of losing his composure. Vicki Lawrence, whom Carol had discovered after receiving a fan letter and was struck by how much the young woman resembled her, became one of the most versatile performers on the show. Tim Conway, who joined the cast in later seasons, became legendary for his ability to improvise in ways that destroyed his castmates, in the most literal sense, because they could not hold their laughter. There is famous footage of Harvey Korman laughing so hard during a Tim Conway bit involving a dentist that he slides off his chair completely. Carol herself is barely holding it together. It is one of the funniest things ever captured on American television. The show had a format that audiences came to love. It opened with Carol taking questions from the studio audience, unscripted, genuine, warm. Then came the sketches, some recurring, like the soap opera parody As the Stomach Turns, or the bumbling charwoman character that Carol played in silent pantomime segments, or the Burnett family's dysfunctional domestic dramas. There were also elaborate musical numbers, guest stars ranging from Lucille Ball to Steve Martin to rock icons, and movie parodies that were genuinely brilliant pieces of comic writing and performance. Their spoof of Gone with the Wind, in which Carol's Scarlett O'Hara descends a staircase wearing a gown made from curtain rods, the curtains still attached, remains one of the most iconic moments in television comedy history. The dress was a last-minute invention, and the walk down those stairs, Carol's face completely straight, the absurd curtain rod contraption framing her shoulders, is the kind of image that burns itself into cultural memory. But Carol Burnett was not just a performer. She was the creator, producer, and driving force behind the entire operation. She made decisions about casting, writing, direction, and tone. She created an environment on set where creativity was protected and people were treated with dignity. Her longtime collaborators have spoken repeatedly about what it felt like to work there, that it was collaborative, joyful, and serious about the craft at the same time. Good comedy, Carol always understood, requires real work. She also navigated the variety show format with a sophistication that is easy to underestimate in hindsight. The show was genuinely funny, not simply pleasant or inoffensive, but funny in ways that required timing, intelligence, and physical commitment. Carol could play a grand dramatic scene with complete sincerity and then puncture it with a perfectly placed bit of absurdity. She understood the mechanics of humor at a deep level. The pause before the punchline, the look that says more than the words, the willingness to commit fully to the bit no matter how ridiculous it made her look. And through it all, she carried her past with her, not as a wound she performed for audiences, but as a source of understanding. Her grandmother, Nanny, was a constant presence in her life until Nanny's death, and Carol's relationship with her was the emotional foundation of everything. There's a story Carol has told many times about why she ends each episode of her show by tugging on her left earlobe. It was a signal, a private message to Nanny, who watched the show every week from home. It meant, "I'm okay. I love you. I see you." Even after Nanny passed away, Carol kept doing it. She has said it became a way of connecting with everyone watching who had someone they loved and wanted to reach. That small gesture, that tug on the ear, is one of the most quietly beautiful things in the history of American television. Carol's personal life was not without its difficulties either. Her first marriage ended in divorce. Her daughter, Carrie Hamilton, who became an actress and writer, struggled with drug addiction for years before achieving sobriety and collaborating with her mother on a theatrical production called Hollywood Arms, which was drawn directly from Carol's childhood experiences. Carrie died of cancer in 2002, and Carol has spoken about that loss with an honesty and vulnerability that is almost difficult to witness. She did not hide her grief. She did not perform resilience for cameras. She simply lived through it, as she had lived through everything else. Her career did not end with the variety show. She continued to act in films, in television movies, in Broadway productions. She received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She was awarded the Screen Actors Lifetime Achievement Award. The Kennedy Center honored her. And in her later years, she remained a presence in American culture, writing memoirs, speaking publicly, appearing in projects like the Netflix series Better Call Saul, where she demonstrated, to the delight of anyone who had forgotten, that her ability to inhabit a character was completely undimmed. But what Carol Burnett represents goes beyond awards and ratings. She represents a particular kind of American story, the story of someone who had every reason not to make it and made it anyway, not through luck or connections, but through talent, discipline, and a refusal to be defeated by circumstances. She grew up in a single room with a grandmother who scraped together dimes for movie tickets, and she built one of the most significant careers in the history of entertainment. She did it in a medium and a format that was not supposed to be hers. She did it week after week for 11 years at the highest level of her craft, while being a producer and a collaborator and a human being dealing with everything that being a human being entails. The Carol Burnett Show ended its original run in 1978, and there has never been anything quite like it since. Television changed, formats changed, attention spans changed. But the show itself, those 278 episodes, exists as a document of what American comedy could be at its best: inclusive, physical, intelligent, warm, and willing to work very hard to earn a genuine laugh. Carol Burnett once said that comedy is tragedy plus time. She knew both sides of that equation better than most, and what she did with that knowledge every Saturday night for 11 years was give to millions of American families that is harder to give than it looks: the simple, profound, and irreplaceable gift of laughter.